Madam, please begin.
Okay, sir. Hello, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we have scheduled webinar on the last chamber of Maslow, which has been organized by Applied Science and Humanities Department of Parul Polytechnic Institute, Parul University. I, Vaishali Nathwani, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Savitha Sastry. She is a Bharatanatyam artist, choreographer, filmmaker, and she is also the director of Savitha Sastry Production Company. She holds the distinction of being dancer to have brought out a revolution in the way Bharatanatyam is presented after Sri Rukmani Devi. She redefines the dance form and philosophy. She is also the appealing to the intellect rather than preaching to them. She has constructed renaissance of the ancient form, and she believes to learn more and more in the dance form, and she spreads her knowledge to the students and the human beings who are required for that. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining with us today.
Thank you, Vaishali.
Yes. Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
So you can start with the session, ma'am. Yes.
I had a question, Vaishali. I had requested to be able to interact with the participants. How do I do that?
Yes, ma'am. Some of the students have joined here, or they might be joining in few 3 minutes, and then you can start conversation with them also.
Okay. All right. So they will be here on chat and then I can converse with them. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
That's all right. Thank you, Vaishali, and thank you to Mr. Patel for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on the topic of the last chamber of Maslow. So sometimes, these titles we pick up before a lecture. These titles have almost a need to look exciting, and therefore we make it exciting. And this title really, if you think about it, it sounds like the 36th chamber of Shaolin. For those of you that remember the iconic martial arts movie, this was probably, for many of you, Mesolithic times because this was in the 80s. But there's an interesting tidbit about it, right? Shaolin has only 35 chambers. There is no 36th chamber, even according to the movie. The Maslow's pyramid doesn't exist. And this, in my opinion, is something that I shall explain to you in the next few minutes why I think so. So let's begin. Um, Now, I had requested Mr. Patel for an interactive session, and I had wanted to really get to know some of my participants better because I think it relates to the topic and what we're going to discuss. And there is really no hidden agenda here, just really genuinely want to know. So, if there are participants already joining me, something that I want you to think about, or those of you that are here with me, perhaps one of you can answer this particular question. What do you want to be in your life once you graduate? I mean, I know this is a question that you get perhaps asked a lot, and something that you might be reflecting a lot about in your classes or in your journey. But I would love to hear from you at this point if we have students. So, Vaishali, maybe you can help me out here.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just asked a question, and I'm not sure. I'm not seeing anything in response. Are there students on this forum that can reply, or is it being telecast? Am I just speaking to space?
Hello. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Actually,
So
so yes, yes. Pardon, please.
I had a question. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you want to be in your life when you graduate? Is the question.
Yes. Here, one of the student is sitting beside me. He wants to be an engineer right now.
Yeah. So I see
Yeah.
somebody has raised their hand.
Yes. Yes. Neha. Yes, Dipsa, you can answer the question.
Good morning, ma'am. Lipsa Pandya here. Ma'am, after being graduate, I wanted to be.
Sorry, you're a little soft. Can you speak up?
Hello, am I
Yes.
audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So after completing my graduation, I wanted to be a very good engineer, but my passion is dance, so I am keenly interested in classical dancing too. As I have completed my 3.5 years with 2 years of distinction and third year with first class, so I want to continue to over it.
Okay, that's great. And sorry, I missed your name. Is it Neha?
No, ma'am, my name is Dipsa Pandya.
Dipsa. All right. Thank you, Dipsa. Um, so here is one of the many situations where you want to be an engineer, right, Dipsa? You want to be not only just an engineer, but a good engineer, but your passion is also calling for something else. So perhaps there are others like Dipsa where career calls in a particular stream, and then you have your passion directing you to something beyond that. So let's talk a little bit more about Maslow. And before I really dive deep into the hierarchy, I want to, just touch upon the background of who Maslow is and what this pyramid is all about. So, Abraham Harold Maslow is an American psychologist who was famous for many things in his times, but the most enduring research to come out of him was on the hierarchy of the needs of the human mind. His theory proposed that people have a set of basic wants, and those have to be addressed before pursuing greater social, emotional, and self actualization demands. So, we'll talk about what self actualization is. It's a big word, right? So, he said that there are some basic needs that have to be fulfilled first. So, many of you might have seen this iconic pyramid. It's the shape of a triangle, and you would have seen it in some textbook or the other, regardless of what stream you've taken up. Now, incidentally, what's interesting is that Maslow never incorporated that famous pyramid in any of his publications. That triangle or the pyramid you see was never something that Maslow himself used. So that probably was, some textbook publisher that put it in. And to just give you a quick refresher course on what the pyramid is, uh, there's that big base, which really represents the physiological needs. So, what are these needs? Whether you're a student, whether you're a professor, whether you're Ratan Tata, whether you're a homeless person, looking for somebody to help you out on the streets, the basic physiological needs that all of us share are food, water, sleep, sex. For you, for me, they're the same. You can't live without these, right? Um, Now, the next level. So that is your base level. Let's call that, basic needs, right? Those are the very fundamental needs for survival. So we'll call that survival, the base. Now, what's beyond that? You have survival. What are you going to be looking for? If you have food, then you're looking for something beyond that, which might be a roof over your head, right? You need something, some shelter. You need clothes to wear. You need some sort of stability in your life so that you know that somebody's not going to come and take your things away. So you need some sort of good governance, rules, regulations, law. So that is the second level. So let's call this second level security, right? Whether it is financial security or some sort of regulation that allows you to live a safe life. So obviously in times of war, in times of even the pandemic, our security was threatened. Okay, so that's the second level. Now let's look beyond that. The third level, that is the want of love and belonging. Now, if you want love and belonging, it also means that you're probably sharing yourself and your possessions with those loved ones, right? And you do this freely. You share what you have with family and friends and lovers because you get something in return, and that which you get in return is their love and their trust and that sense of being together. And that we will call as your either social needs or the sense of wanting, the need for love, for belonging. Okay, that's the third. So let's quickly recap. At the base we had survival, food, water, all that. The next was that we wanted some sort of security, be it a roof over your head, stability in the environment around you. And the third, now we've added to it, is love, belonging, your social needs. Okay, the fourth level, what is that? It is what Maslow termed as the level for you to acquire self-esteem. It is the need for self-esteem. So what is that? It basically means I want to be recognized as being successful, right? Now, this is something that we heard Deepsa just mention, that she wants to be a good engineer, right? So that idea of being recognized as a good engineer, that comes from a need for feeling successful, and that is the need for self-esteem. Now, what's beyond it? This is the chamber that the topic is on, right? And that halo top chamber, which Maslow referred to as the aesthetic level, the level concerned with harmony, beauty, order, and all of this. So when a human is at that level, right, that person is said to have reached a stage of self actualization. So if you were to take this word apart, self actualization, to become your full potential, right, consider it as at one interpretation of how he looked at it. It is really reaching a stage of some kind of nirvana. You've reached your full potential, you know it. And therefore, the opinions of the rest of the world ceases to matter to you, because you've reached a place of knowledge where you know what you are, who you are, and you have actualized. Okay, this is the top chamber. Now let's take a simple example and see if we truly understand this pyramid, right? So I will take the example of an artist, because I'm an artist. I come from that field and it's easy for me to speak as an artist, right? So the singer on a train in Mumbai, we've all heard people come up to us and sing, and then they obviously want money in return, right? What's he doing it for? He's doing it to get money for food, not for gaining recognition as Tansen. Because if you spend enough of your time listening to him, asking him to sing more, and then you don't give him even 25 paisa, he's going to be very hurt. He'll probably say some choice words to you and leave rather upset. It's great that you had some nice words to say, but then the basic fact is that his needs are for survival. So he's singing so that his survival needs are met, right? So now let's move to the next stage. An example for somebody at the next level might be a person who's running a modest dance school in a small town as a single mother, perhaps, right? And she's doing that not just for survival needs, but also for security. So, what kind of security are we talking about? A roof over their head, sending her children to school, and so on and so forth. So, pretty simple to understand, so forth. Now, what if you write a poem for your girlfriend or your boyfriend for Valentine's Day, right? Or you take out your guitar if you're the kind that sings or composes little rhymes or poems, and you do that for your parents on their 25th anniversary, their wedding anniversary, right? Now you're accessing the need for love and belonging. That would be the third stage. Yeah, with me so far? Simple enough, right? Now, where are you going from this point on? So, one thing that you'll notice is it's not a matter of survival or safety anymore. It is a matter of choice at this stage, right? So, ascending that ladder of choice, this need that you want to be a Lata Mangeshkar, a Virat Kohli, an Einstein, a Bruce Lee, this is where most people you're aware of are living today, right? That aspirational goal. You must have dreams like that. All of you perhaps have dreams like this when you graduate, to make it big, to earn a lot of respect, to become somebody and earn that recognition from society. And then when you have that exalted state, finally, the last stage, right, according to Maslow, is where you would find, honestly, the yogis and the saints and the prophets living in a state of complete bliss, okay? Because they've reached self realization, right? So, is this bliss only for yogis? I have another question for you at this stage, okay? What I want to know is, can you think of a moment, students, those of you that are here can answer me back if you can raise your hands. Can you think, it's a very simple question, can you think of a moment when you just forgot yourself? कि ख्याल भी नहीं आया कि you're there. इतना भूल गए कि, you know, that you had to like just snap out of it and go, wow, that was amazing, right? Can you think of any point of time in your life when you've had, even just for a moment, had that sensation, right? So can you answer this question for me, please? I just want to know when it was. कभी हुआ इस तरह के एक feeling कि आप अपने को भूल गए, even if it is very brief, just for a few seconds. Can someone answer, please? Yeah, Neha?
Looks like yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Neha.
Ma'am, one incident is there with me. It's just before a day before yesterday that I was driving on a road. I was on my bike ride and I was surprised that yes, finally I am driving my dream with my father, and it was a very surpriseful and amazing moment for me.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so um, you've clearly recounted a very emotionally endearing moment for you. At the same time, time itself didn't have that same relevance, perhaps, because it just, you were doing something that you wanted to do. So time flew by, right? It just went by, and it's that recognition of yourself doing something which honestly, it doesn't matter who's looking at you, who passes judgment on you. You are just totally present for that moment. Am I describing what you felt, Neha, to some degree?
Ma'am, it's me, Diksha. It was like that finally I am completing my dream and I was not able to believe it that am I doing this thing? It's like that. It was very precious moment for me that I am pursuing one of my dreams. So I was very happy and I was lost in this particular moment.
Lost in the particular moment, right? So the emotional quality might have been surprise, but the end of it is that moment you were lost to it. It was all that mattered at that point. You were not thinking about an assignment that was due or what you had to do when you came back, right? So whether it is that moment that Neha just talked about, or perhaps for some of you, it's some movie that you went to, and then there were some scenes that were so gripping that you didn't even have a sense of you watching the film, that you enjoyed it to some such a degree. या कुछ गाने सुन रहे थे and you were completely lost to that music. This happens, right? And then we put it on, you know, we keep listening to it over and over again, or maybe it is in a on a walk somewhere, just looking at the sunset, just that moment where you've lost yourself to. So, in what is common in all of these, sorry, that's an aeroplane flying up. So, what is common is that in all of these moments, you self actualized. So, in those moments, you lost yourself up totally to that moment, that there was nothing else except you and that moment, right? And this is that state, that the fifth chamber. Artists love to consider themselves as permanent inhabitants of that space. This is something that is where I have had many conversations with artists, with other dancers, and you must have heard many serious musicians say that music is divine. Artists say that art is divine. Dancers say dance is divine, and so on. Even by Maslow's hierarchy, one can safely say that all artists live not in the fifth level, but in the fourth level. Why do I say this? Because if they permanently lived in the fifth level, their creations would be for themselves. They would have no reason to give it to you. I should find complete happiness dancing in my garage and should have no reason to be doing live shows or dance films. It should not matter to me whether you all enjoy it or not. And I'm in bliss when I dance, and that is all that matters. So when somebody tells you that they dance for themselves, कि मेरे खुशी के लिए मैं dance करती हूँ, या मेरे happiness के लिए मैं I sing, these are, if they're artists who are performing, then there's really no need for them to perform, is there, if they're in the fifth level, right? The dance I create, the art that an artist makes, now that may take some of you to that state of harmony and beauty and bliss that we spoke about. Now, that does not mean that I live there. Does that mean I can access that space more than a non-artist? जो artist नहीं है, do I have some special thing that I go to that space more often, that fifth chamber more often than others, or do I need that fifth chamber more often than others? No. A climber climbs Mount Everest. He or she does not live in Mount Everest. That would be very uncomfortable. It's not easy to live there, is it? That's why you don't have most of us giving up our lives and becoming yoginis, or people who leave samsar and go away to the Himalayas, because that is not something that the aam admi, the normal person does, right? I have just as much access as all of you do to this fifth chamber. Strangely, however, think about this. This is a very interesting thing. Those people that help you access that exalted self-actualization space, जो आपको वो ticket दिलवाते हैं कि आपने अपने को खो दिया, that you lost yourself in that music, suddenly that music director becomes somebody that you say, अरे वाह, music is divine, so therefore he has access to that divine space, right? And you have many so-called gurus, and I'm not talking of the real true people who have realized this wisdom. And so you have many people who are pretending to be those gurus, right, who have supposedly reached self-actualization, self-realization, who are rewarded in which chamber? In chamber 4, success, fame, wealth, and all things of glory. वहां पे रिवॉर्ड देते हैं हम. जो सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन वहां पे चले गए, उनको क्या मतलब है सक्सेस से या वेल्थ से, राइट? बट वी ट्रांजैक्ट इन द चेंबर्स दैट आर बिलो chamber 5 in Maslow's hierarchy, right? Now, look at a musician on the other end who's really brilliant and really has the ability to move his or her audiences to access that space, chances are that even if they don't necessarily value that success in that same way, chances are they will be successful, because that's how we reward somebody who has allowed us to reach that, even if it's temporary, if they allow us to reach that wavelength of connection, of emotional presence, we reward them with all of these, these types of fame and success. And these are the transactables that we reward these artists with, right? But the point that I made in the beginning was that I don't believe things can be neatly categorized into hierarchical levels as Maslow did. Every single element at the base lends itself to an extravagance much higher up in the pyramid. तो मैं क्या बोल रही हूँ? What am I saying in this? अभी आपने वड़ा पाव खाया, food, right? We went to the street vendor and we got our vada pav. मगर ये वड़ा पाव रेस्टोरेंट में भी मिलता है. अगर आपको चाहिए तो you can go to the tea room in Taj Kolaba and have that same vada pav, except you'll be paying a lot more. Um, and that vada pav, because you've paid more, has to obviously have, you justify yourself in some way. It's more healthful, that it's more tasty, whatever it is, right? You justify that it is worth that experience of eating vada pav and watching Gateway of India from that tea room. So there is some transactional satisfaction you get out of that vada pav. So even food, regardless of the fact that it is placed at the survival level, you can enjoy it because what it did for you at the tea room in Taj Kolaba is that it helped you make feel successful. So that same food allowed you to access chamber 4, right? So hence I say that anything at the base can be elevated and um, made to satisfy a need much higher up, right? So the human hardwiring is such that your mind constantly seeks to outperform what was achieved last at every stage of the hierarchy. Save the fifth. Fifth ko chhod do. That seems to have its own rules altogether. Because once you go there, nothing should matter, right? So here's how I think about this. But Maslow, this whole thing is not a pyramid. मुझे ये pyramid नहीं लग रहा. I feel it is a corridor with rooms on both sides of the corridor, much like what you'll find in a hotel. Now you walk into a room because you want to do something, maybe because you love somebody. आप एक room के अंदर चले गए. So you went inside and you spent time with somebody. You did something with them, okay? Because you shared that need for love and you were also able to give back in that chamber. And that's just a room in a corridor. And then you walked across to the next room where you maybe created something because you want to hear that applause, right? And all that work made you hungry. Acha, theek hai, you ran across, you went to another room and you grabbed something to eat. In short, life is not a linear ascendancy to self-actualization. But what is it? It's really a hybridized melange where each one of us alternates between these states depending on what the circumstance is at that point. So, coming straight from an artist, art is as divine or as basal as the need behind that art is at that point. For that person who's singing on the street, art is food. For an artist who is at the level where they're looking for the Instagram likes, or be it the talia at the end of a show, it is self-esteem, it is success, it is fame, right? All of those success, fame, all of that goes into chamber 4. Okay? Art does not have hierarchies. Human mind loves to categorize things in hierarchies, which is why old-time romantics would tell you that the pure note of a coil cannot be matched by music playing on the high-end Bose system. That purity of the note of a coil can never be reproduced on anything that has electronics with it. And I believe that nature does not create hierarchies. Humans do. This world has inhabitants in every room they would like to call their own in this corridor. सब लोगों का there are rooms which might borrow from several of these categories. And आज भी आप देखोगे तो there are hunter gatherers in many places. For instance, parts of the Nicobar Islands, where life is still about subsistence, about survival, right? There is a huge population, that large segment that the government likes to call the middle class, who say that a two-bedroom flat, decent education for children, and a good health insurance policy is what is essential for them. Now, every romantic writer, poet, artist, dancer of this world swears that love is something that you all need and relationships are everything, right? The upwardly mobile would like to believe that fame, fortune, and all other parameters associated with that ideology is what is essential, the driving force of a lot of you at this stage of your lives. And then there are some enlightened ones that live in that blissful state of nirvana for the rest of their lives. Each one is happy in those rooms of the categories they inhabit, and none of them is wrong. In the Maslow corridor, you gravitate towards one of these homes, but they are all on the same floor. Perhaps you don't have an answer. It might come in time, right? But ये जो this idea of Maslow that I want to present to you, I want to leave you with some questions. Now, think about them. Think about them in your own time. I know some of you are not part of this webinar right now, but those of you that are with me, I would love to have the opportunity for more than one person. If we could just go around and each of you chime in and give me your response. Um, Speak about a couple of things. Where do you see yourself? In which corridor, in which room, sorry, in which one of these rooms do you see yourself spending a lot of time? Yeah, which chamber? And the second question that I have for you is, sitting where you are now, how do you measure your goal? Do you measure it in happiness, or do you measure it in the worth of it, the rupees, right? And that is the reality of it, isn't it? You measure happiness, your goal, sorry, you measure your goal in happiness, or do you measure it in rupees? Or do you measure happiness itself in rupees? Is it so interlinked? So, a couple of different questions for you that I want to hear you um, answer. Where do you spend a lot of time in? Which one of these? So, I will recap again. Base mein hua, survival. फिर हुआ safety, जो financial, basic financial needs, your security needs. Then the third level is love. Fourth level हुआ self-esteem, success, fame, वो वाला. And the fifth is where you feel you can just get lost. You can get lost in that. You don't need anybody to validate you. किसी की भी राय परवाह नहीं है. You're just happy. You're just a happy person. Where do you see yourself spending a lot of time in as a student, thinking about your future? Okay, so let's answer that question. Can I hear from you?
Ma'am, may I?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Neha.
Uh, so, ma'am, as I'm a student right now, so my main focus is towards getting money and get pursuing that esteem, which I will be assuring for myself in future, through which I can get some better respect in my future and get some love and get what respect what my parents are thinking that I should get or I will get. They are thinking that yes, as my child has these abilities, so that he or she can pursue such things. So, being a student and the child of a parent, the basic goal of every student should be to fulfill their parents' needs. So, as on student stage, one must consider themselves in earning the money and getting that esteem what their parents have thought for themselves.
Thank you, Neha. Um, so, from Neha's answer, the idea of gaining the respect, gaining the money, while there is an element for herself and ensures her own safety, security, all of those, there is also an element, she says, that is tied into the love that her parents have for her, and so it fosters that bond if she meets her goals. So it ties into the idea of love, belonging, of self-esteem, and of course to get her to those levels of safety, security, all that is basic. Absolutely, I think that's where all of us live, with a large thrust of our lives towards one of these goals. Um, and it's not surprising, therefore, for students to have that as something that is in the forefront of their thoughts. So, what do you see? Which brings the second question, right? Of is happiness measured in rupees? Is your goal to achieve happiness, or is it to achieve money? Do you measure your happiness in terms of the money you've earned?
I will answer this that uh, it's just fact that happiness can't be measured with money, but as you reach at certain stage, your parents or your dear ones and near ones will get happy, and that happiness matters to me a lot. No doubt, the other stages are also very much important to us, but at this level of being a student, this should be the foremost stages that we should consider in ourselves first. This is my opinion, or else everyone has their own choice.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's more of you, I see. So let's hear from somebody else. What do you believe, as where you spend your time, or where perhaps you would like to spend your time, um, that it's not happening? Sorry, just gonna wait for that. Because to me, it's very interesting that your entire life, you're only going to mainly address four chambers, right? After you've got your food and your home, and then the rest of it, really only two chambers. You're going to keep going to the third and the fourth. Third is for relationships, fourth is for self-esteem. इसमें उलझते हैं. Nobody ever teaches you in school and college. Parents, we are all taught that you need to make something of yourself. Yes, you need to be happy, but you are happy because you have completed your education. You're happy because you found a great placement. You're happy because you got a promotion. So all of these, in society values you when you achieve something in bracket 3 or bracket 4. It doesn't really teach you at all to self actualize, right? Because it almost goes against the idea of society to self actualize. And yet it is sitting as this last chamber of Maslow. So nobody will teach you to get there. Nobody will, in a direct sense, because even if they say अच्छा अच्छा meditation कर लो, meditation आप इसलिए करोगे ताकि आपका stress कम हो जाए and you can earn more, in some field, कि आपका your capacity to work goes up because you meditate. That is the context we are living in today, right? We are always driving ourselves with achievement targets, of performance targets. You're constantly measured in your workplace, in your school, against some target. And everything related to self actualization is only to help you achieve that. Right. And yet, it was, according to Maslow, one of the goals that should be the overarching reason for your existence. Harmony, beauty, right? And lives art itself lives there, not artists, as I said, but art lives in that chamber because it allows you to become one with that moment, with yourself. So where, where society might not lead you directly, there are, I think, indirect ways of accessing that space. And to figure out where you are right now and what might be missing, this fifth chamber, or rather, to me, it's a room, as I said, it's not a hierarchy, that you can access that anytime, might hold certain meaning for you, even as students, because you are pushed so much into those other places in the way that you are brought up, in the way that, and it doesn't mean just you, it means all of us, right? Those are the same expectations I have for myself as an artist, because if people don't come to see me, my art has no meaning. So my art is, as much as I would like to imagine I'm doing this out of some sort of connectedness with the divine, um, bottom line is that all of you have the same access as I do. And my reason for dancing is so that I feel the love of the people around me and I feel the validation of the people around me. So that reason for dancing is not living in the fifth chamber where I feel like, okay, मुझे वो divinity के साथ connection मिल गया तो बस है. अगर वो reason hota, so then I don't need to dance anywhere outside. I just have to dance in my home and then I'm done, right? So that theory to मैं बिल्कुल I don't subscribe to. However, I think the idea of these rooms that exist and where you spend a lot of your time in might help us all to sort of understand that nobody's going to guide us literally to get that fifth room. You have to, as you age, there is a process that happens. As Neha said, you might be able to go there, but that is also not true. You could still age, and you'd have to really, really come to the end of your life before you realize, and I don't mean to sound dismally woeful. So that's, I think, something that Maslow gives us a handle over. But yeah, please, I want to hear from more of you. Shreya, Radyumanish, Japanti, I see some of your names on my screen. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on where are you? Which chamber do you see yourself? Where would you like to be? Or on the other question, do you measure happiness, your goals as happiness, or do you measure it in money, or do you feel happiness is having money? Vaishali, are you able to help me with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, are there any students that I'm not seeing that are on chat, or 'cause I don't know if my, yeah, Shreya, go ahead. Go ahead, Shreya.
Good morning, ma'am. We cannot say that money can buy happiness, but there are little requirements or basic life requirements for fulfilling that we require money. But I will choose the stage when I feel happy, fulfilling my own dreams, feeling self-esteemed.
Hmm. Okay. So for you, the idea of happiness and self-fulfillment is more important perhaps than the value of the money itself. That's great. Um, are you are any of you able to chime in? Anybody else that wants to speak? If not, I have said what I have to, and we can close.
Yes, ma'am. I don't think anyone wants to answer a question right now. because it was already conversation session. So I think all the students have been clear with that.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyone else? Any question from your end? No, ma'am. I think we have cleared all the questions. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Only one question from my end.
Sure.
Yeah. Uh, Sometimes it happens that we love our profession, right? But monetarily, we can't do or fulfill our dreams. So, according to your advice, what is the way that we can achieve our dreams at that situation?
Right. So that is not something very different than what many of us dancers have to do, because the the popular view on becoming a performer in India is that there isn't money in art. Like, it's you're better off being a data, into data science rather than taking up art or getting into engineering. So if your passion truly lies in it, as I think we began with that very interesting premise, right? You're a good engineer, but my passion lies in dance. So what do you do in that situation? So there is going to be that. In this context, what happens is that your need to be the dancer or the artist is never going to be fulfilled if you're just an engineer, right? So वो अधूरा रह जाएगा कि मुझे um, I want to be that. Now that could be fulfilling your self-esteem needs, right? कि I feel fulfilled only if I become that dancer. Huh? So if that need in you is so strong that you will um, somehow find the answer to that. Whether in my personal life, kya hua ki I had to earn enough for a number of years to put away that bank. When my child was young and I was paying EMIs and doing all those things that everybody does at that age, I couldn't fulfill that passion. So it takes a certain amount of time for people with that dual issue of where your profession itself might not be supportive um, to make a living, that you will have to find the resources to be that parent, be that wife that still pays the EMI. And then at a later stage, you might be able to do the kinds of things you like. Or you have to compromise and say, मुझे EMI नहीं भरना है. I will find a way to live within. There are people who in America, they are rock climbers. Kya karte hain? They just live in a van, right? They go from one mountain to the next mountain and they just climb. कि उनका whatever the amount of food they need for a day, they here and there they work, and then they are able to live off of that. So your passion, the extent of your passion and what you're able to live with as far as your needs go, आपके needs अगर बहुत कम होगा, then you can manage with it, that you don't need anything more than that street vada pav. उससे आप संभाल लोगे, तो then you don't need to aspire to eat it anywhere else, right? So it really is a question of how you're going to balance all of those at the end of the day, and be resourceful. So is there no money in dance? No, there is money in dance if you know where to look for it. So you might have to be very resourceful, be very creative, do some very out of the box kind of thinking, which is true in every field, isn't it? I mean, in today's world, every field is competitive, so you have to strike it out in some manner to prove that you're worth that paycheck that you take home. So being an artist is no different. So yes, it is a lot of creative thinking that you'll have to put in. Thanks, Vaishali.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for answering your our question. And it was very nice listening to you. And it will sure helpful our students to gain their dreams and believe in themselves.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am, for joining with us today.
My
It
pleasure.
was very pleasure to listening to you, and I would also like to thank the HOD of our department, Mr. Hemal Patel, sir, the HOI of our institute, Professor Jatin Vaidya, sir, and the president of our university, Dr. Devanshu Patel, sir, for motivating and supporting us for conducting such webinars. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Bye.